there is not a better big game player in the history of football than Cristiano Ronaldo.
I mean, if Luka Modric, even in 2026, is your most important player, even though he had a great season for Milan, actually,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
played really well and like he was really pulling the strings
Rolls
once
Royce,
again. But
man. Rolls Royce.
but
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 we've seen goalkeepers do really well in World Cups,
yes,
you know, in their 40s and late 30s.
yes, yes. Buffon would have done the same if Italy ever got to the World Cup ever again.
Welcome to the Dugout as we continue our World Cup preview. The usual gang with me, Mustafa Siddiq, and Izzy. How are you guys?
Very well, very well. Uh,
just
interested.
staring at the inevitable loss to Bangladesh once again. Apart from that, pretty good.
In
Actually,
Test
my
cricket?
week got ruined by Juve, so
Yeah,
it's bad.
yeah.
But
I'm all.
with Test cricket, if nobody's watching it, did it actually happen?
Very true.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Also, aside from
Out
that,
of
Right.
I
sight, out of mind.
yeah, yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Aside from that, for the next 2 weeks, I am a Burnley and PSG supporter.
Yeah, I would love to see that later
I
today.
Hmm.
Of course. Arsenal Burnley, let's see.
yes.
I would love to watch that. All right, let's start. Let's get to the World Cup. So let's continue with our teams. Portugal. So Portugal, of course, semi-finalists in '66 with the great Eusebio. And then since then, under Cristiano, so in 2010, round of 16 knockout. 2014, they got grouped. 2018, round of 16. And of course, last time around, 2022, quarterfinalists knockout to Morocco. So Cristiano is back. They have Roberto Martinez as their manager, who is but this is not the golden generation of Rui Costa and so on and so forth, but it's a very good team. You look
Oh
at
yeah.
obviously Bruno from Manchester United, Vitinha, Neves, João Neves, Pedro
Nuno Mendes.
Neto, Nuno Mendes.
Nuno
The
Mendes.
only question I have is, do they play João Felix or Rafael Leao up front in that triumvirate? It's this is a stacked team. The only thing who I can person who can mess this up is actually Roberto Martinez. And if they go too reliant on Cristiano. AZ Mustafa, is this Portugal's year to potentially break through, at least get to a semifinal?
I think that on paper at least, they are one of the favorites. I think they're like one of at least my top five teams who I think could win the entire thing, right? Because aside, like, we'll get to the other players, but like, just considering how good Bruno has been this year, right? I know he's not the same player for Portugal that he is for United, but the way he has transformed his game this year to being so much compact and smarter, right? Combined with Neves in midfield, that is a very dangerous combination. And then you just have a variance of attacking opportunity of attackers who are all deadly in their own right, who are all some mostly big game performers as well, right? And this is going to be a fun because they also have Nuno Mendes as well, so it's a very very good team.
They've always had a good team, but they always, it's not like a golden generation. It's more like a bronze generation with these guys because on paper they should be absolutely smacking everybody left, right, and center, but they never play to their actual technical ability
Mm.
because they have pace, they have dribbling, they have skill, they have a Cristiano leading the line, whatever you may say. He scores goals. You've got Rafael Leao, you've got
But
Pedro on the wings. You should be absolutely slamming in the goals, but they play in a negative fashion. And Roberto Martinez, like you mentioned, Doc, he is a massive Achilles heel. It really holds them back. Maybe it's a Ronaldo thing as well, psychologically, that they just feel they cannot compete without him. It's maybe a bit of a Babar Azam kind of, there could be a similarity there. There could be perhaps a comparison drawn there, but they never play up to their potential. They're very cynical, as we see usually in these intercontinental competitions. Let's see what they do. They will be up there making up the numbers in this World Cup as well. But do they have a prolonged run in the tournament? I'm not sure. Maybe they'll, somewhere in a knockout game, they'll go to penalties and they might lose. I think that will be a similar fate this summer as well.
So let me ask you two questions. Number one, of course, they're in Group K with Congo, Colombia, and the Uzbeks. First question is Roberto Martinez, we have issues with, obviously. Do we think, similar to what a Deschamps pragmatic approach in 2018 and then again in 2022. Do you think he can Deschamps himself their way into winning something or reaching a final the way France did in 18 and then 22? And number two, is Portugal better without Cristiano? Because we saw that in the Euros.
It's it's like I understand where everyone comes from with Cristiano, like if they're better or not, right? I could see why, but like the amount of leadership he has, and like he's still a big game player, man. Whatever you say about him, he's still in my lifetime. I am not going to see two footballers better than him. Like as simply as that. And yeah, he's old. He's not as good as he used to be. Of course, he's what is he like 40, 41 now? Like something like that. Like of course he's not as good as, but like the amount of leadership he brings, the amount of threat he still brings just psychologically to the other side of the to the other team members. I totally get it from a tactical standpoint, right? Where like, yes, you don't play Cristiano because of that, but like on the other hand, it's a big game. It's big games. There is not a better big game player in the history of football than Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, I don't disagree. He hasn't performed to his level in the World Cup, aside from like 2018 when he had that excellent group stage, right? But like, I it's still him.
Is he? Of course,
The
he played
problem
for
is they don't
Juve.
like have a real number nine, numbers like a striker who's
That's their
like a
one
true
weakness. They
finisher.
don't have
Yeah,
a
they have that Gonzalo guy from PSG, but he's on the
Gonzalo
bench now, I
Ramos. Yep.
believe.
His
He's been
career went
shopped
to
around
nothing.
Europe.
Yep.
He looked okay last year and then completely, fell off a cliff. Not sure what's happening with him. So they don't have a true number nine spearhead. So it has to be Ron. And, besides with that anthem that they've got going, that AI anthem, maybe it might, inspire them to do well in this tournament.
Can they be pragmatic in their way to victory, the way Deschamps in
That's
France
the
was, or no?
thing. But the problem is Martinez doesn't have the chops Deschamps has in these matches, and they do elevate their game, France, when it's required. These guys, they don't seem to be able to elevate during the 90 minutes or the 120 minutes. Let's see. But it does feel like they'll be in the mix, but I don't feel like they're gonna be like, semi-finalists or anything.
No, but at least like they're obviously gonna cruise through the group stages. Their group is nothing. Like they should easily top it, right? Yes, Colombia is a tricky contest. I'm not
But
gonna.
they'll win in 1-0, 2-1, horrible games. It's gonna
Huh?
be a chore to watch those games. It's not gonna be pretty, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but at
Unless
the
he stat pads big time against the Uzbeks or something.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, like I think you just we just have to see what happens, man. I
All
think.
right, let's come to Croatia. Croatia, of course, in Group L. Um, with England, Croatia, and Ghana in it as well as Panama, obviously. Croatia, of course, semifinalists in '98, and France, Davor Suker's team, semifinalists in 2022, finalists in 2018, of course, in that match against France. This is an aging team now. Modric is still captaining, still going to play. Kovacic is old. Perisic is old. Um, Josko Guardiola hasn't been healthy most of the season with City. Uh, where do we? To me, they have one tough game against England. That's actually in Dallas, and then of course, couple tricky games with Ghana and Panama. Is this the end of the stage for this group of fantastic players? They got grouped in the Euros just 2 years ago.
I mean, it's that happened. The end of the stage was probably 24. Like as you said, they got grouped in the Euros. They like I was looking forward to watching their center back partnership because they were going to with Guardiola. They also have this guy called Luka Vuskovic, right, who plays for Hamburg. So he's a very dominant aerial defender. So I would have wanted to watch how well that partnership would have held up. But as you said, like now like Guardiola, who's arguably he's their best defender, yes, but he's arguably their best player as well, right? So if he's injured, it's like they'll qualify. I think they'll probably qualify, but like you're asking a lot for them to get anything past the round of 16. I think.
I mean, if Luka Modric, even in 2026, is your most important player, even though he had a great season for Milan, actually,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
played really well and like he was really pulling the strings
Rolls
once
Royce,
again.
man. Rolls Royce.
But like you said, they were watched in 2024. So imagining them in 2026, we don't see that bright starlet emerging from the Croatian ranks just yet. Maybe there'll be a surprise at the World Cup, somebody we haven't seen before really take to the stage. Otherwise, these Kramaric and all these guys, we've seen them in the past. There has been, and I think it's going to be a tough go for them. They made it. That's a pretty good indication itself that they still have that quality in them. But maybe best third in their group, that could be something. I think Ghana could be a bit frisky
Hmm.
and finish second. Panama, of course, will probably get hammered by England and the other teams. So they could be best third maybe, and
I
they're always a difficult out in the knockout stages.
hmm. I
I
wouldn't be
think the
su
legs are gone in midfield. You look at their games against England where they knocked England out. Really, they control Modric and Kovacic control the midfield, and I just don't see them doing it this time. I think that those legs are gone.
I
Go on,
mean, if it's still
Mustafa.
up to Perisic and Kovacic and this
Yeah.
guys and that guys, oh my, how long are you going to do that?
like how long is Luka Modric going to hold your team together? Because like it was very obvious that 2018 was their shot, right? 2018 was their shot. It was the best version of that team. It was it they just ran into arguably one of the best international sides I have ever seen.
France was on fire then, and I mean
Uh,
Pogba was in his prime, so on and so forth. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Morocco. Morocco in Group C, of course,
Hmm.
with the interesting group with Brazil, Scotland, and Haiti. Morocco, of course, we remember as semi-finalists last time around. They had that wonderful run. They beat Spain. They beat the Portuguese, AFCON champions technically. They got it back. Of course, Ashraf, Ashraf Hakimi
hmm.
is their superstar, but between Nusayr Mazraoui from Manchester United, Brahim Diaz, they have talent there. I don't think
They
they're
have a lot of
gonna
talent.
sneak.
They have a lot
I
of
don't
talent.
think they're gonna sneak up on teams though the way they snuck up 4 years ago. So let's see what happens. But as the AFCON showed, they're a tournament tested team. This is a team with experience and nous.
Yeah, I like the Morocco. Okay, as much as we joke about Morocco being champions, okay, they rightfully lost that final. Okay, they rightfully lost that final. We all know this. Okay, but they were throughout the tournament. I thought they were the best team in the tournament. Okay, they were playing out. They were playing very good football, and they have been playing very good football for the last 4 years, right? So yes, might not sneak up on teams anymore, but I think they're good enough where they can handle that, right?
They've got a lot of good talent, man, and
It's
especially in midfield. You've got Ayub Wadi, you got Ismail Salibari of PSV. He's amazing.
yeah,
LA now he plays for Roma as well. If things go right, I could see them beating Brazil as well. Honestly, I could see them beating Brazil.
yeah. I don't know what's happening with Brazil half the time. That's
Especially if
the
Yassine Bono is on fire like he was in 2022.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Hakimi's still Hakimi, man. Like Hakimi's still one of the most dangerous attacking threats in world football.
It'll be interesting
They
to see
should
him.
do
All
well.
right.
They should do well.
Let's
Yeah.
move on to one of the co-hosts, Mexico in Group A. Mexico, of course, the first ever three times host of the FIFA World Cup. Of course, the 1970 host, 1986 host, and now here in 2026. Um, they're in a group with South Africa, South Korea, and the Czech Republic. Um, Raul Jimenez, and then they have this young kid who plays in Liga MX, hasn't come over to Europe yet, Gilberto Mora. Seen him
Hmm.
against the US. He's a very talented individual. Mexico historically does really well when they host World Cups. They reached the quarterfinals in both 70 and 86 when they hosted. This is a group that should be easy for them. Obviously, they'll play their games mostly in the Estadio Azteca, which is a historical stadium, and then their third group game is going to be in Guadalajara. Guadalajara, of course, was in the news in February and March because the cartels, but things there have quieted down. The third city in Mexico to host games will be Monterrey on the coast. Of course, Mexico is not playing there, but should be a beautiful venue. Your thoughts on El Tri, the Mexicans?
So first and foremost, we have to look at their performance in 2022, right? They were grouped in 2022, right? Since then, they were the CONCACAF Nations League final winners in 2025, right? But they're still relying on Ochao to be their goalkeeper at 41.
But
But
we've seen goalkeepers do really well in World Cups,
yes,
you know, in their 40s and late 30s.
yes, yes. Buffon would have done the same if Italy ever got to the World Cup ever again. But at the same time, it's just like what's their group again? Their group is
South Africa, South Korea, and Czech.
I think they should
Czech.
be they should be fun.
They should be a feisty group.
Yeah, that'd be a
Everybody
fun.
beating each other, drawing each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should, like it's a feisty group. I think it's gonna be a fun group, which might like be on like the last day. We'll find out who qualifies. But like I think they should qualify. They still have decent enough talent who all like they have enough players who play at Europe where like they should qualify, right?
They have extremely young talent or like aging talent,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Raul
yeah.
Jimenez,
Yeah,
Ochoa. Santi Jimenez is okay. He's done well in Europe. Recently was recently in AC Milan. Then you have young Obaid Vargas is there, and like you mentioned, Gilberto Mora is there. Either they're like teenagers in their early 20s or they're really old. So it's
mm,
pretty much a bridge World Cup for them, I feel.
mm.
They'll have the crowd on their side. It's going to be a
Yeah, that
fantastic
would make
crowd,
a
especially
difference.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the Azteca
No, the
Stadium.
Azteca,
Let's move.
the Azteca is such a fun stadium to watch games. Like not at, but like like to watch live essentially.
Moving on to Australia in Group D with, of course, the US, Turkey, and Paraguay. They were round of 16 qualifiers in 2006 and 2022. And they're not a lot. This is not the old Australian team where you actually had a bunch of players who played in the Premier League. Just Matthew Ryan, their goalkeeper, also their captain's probably their best player. He plays for Levante in Spain, but it's much more of they play a three at the back, 3-4-2-1 system, like a lot of these teams do. They'll be compact, they'll be organized. That's a tough group. I don't see them necessarily getting out of it, but just one of those teams that in modern day FIFA World Cups just is there every year, every 4 years at least.
Yeah, I mean they're also like they did almost eliminate Argentina in 22. If like no, if like everyone like everyone forgets how miraculous that Argentina run is because they were legitimately aside from the semi-final, right? They were in
Correct. They lost to Saudi, and then basically Messi rescued them against the Australians with a fantastic individual goal.
yeah, fantastic individual because he basically rolled it into the to the bottom corner from outside the box. I don't know. There's only a couple of people who could do that ever. But like so like they almost eliminated them. I just don't know. Like this is as you said. Like I like in a very sad way. I really don't know what to say about them because I don't know any of these players like I did about the old Australian teams, right? And like all,
They have some championship players here in
yeah, yeah,
Leicester and here and there. They have a
But
center back who plays in
they
Parma
used to have
and
Robbie Keane and stuff like that. They had to used to
they
have legitimate players,
yeah.
well-known Premier League
The Cahill,
household.
Tim Cahill, and these guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
For Everton, so on and so forth. All right, moving on. This is an interesting team that I think the Japanese in Group F with the Netherlands, with
mm.
Tunisia, and Sweden.
Look,
They were, of course, made the round of 16 when they co-hosted in 2002, also in 2010, 2018, and 2022. So they've made the knockout stages in consecutive World Cups. Also play a back three with Japan, of course. Everyone knows Kira Mitoma, who plays for
yeah,
Brighton. Everyone knows Wataru Endo, although he's been injured mostly for
yeah,
Liverpool. Then they have New Jersey born Zion Suzuki. That's a fantastic
yeah,
story for him.
yeah,
And then this
He's
new
a
kid,
wonderful
this
keeper. He's really good.
correct. And then this new hotshot kid that they have who plays for Sociedad,
yeah.
Takefusa Kobu. Kubo,
Kubo,
yeah.
yeah, Kubo.
He's gonna
He's fantastic. Like he
he's a
is
fantastic player.
fantastic player.
Have you seen that clip of him celebrating with the Sociedad
Yep.
fans? That's
And they
hilarious.
have to me, they have a very interesting group because although we expect the Netherlands to be the top team, both Tunisia and Sweden are sort of in this mid-tier
Yeah,
of teams that easily could come second. But I think the Japanese should do better than
They'll
we
do well.
think.
They'll
yeah,
do
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Mitoma has had another decent season
Mm.
for Brighton in the Premier League.
And also, like, it would be remiss not to mention that, like, they did beat a very decent England side 1-0 just in March, like a couple of months ago. Because that team did have Kobe. It did have it had a lot of it was basically a team of half starters, right? And then the rest of the half starters came on after half time because they were losing 1-0 down, and they were able to weather the storm of like this immense amount of attacking talent that England does have. Even though England do underperform, they have this immense attacking talent, and they were able to defend that. Aside from that, they also have this other Kubo is one person I really want to watch because I could very easily see him
There's one
being.
guy in the Bundesliga, Kshio guy. He's also good.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
plays for Wolfsburg. He's good.
वो मेंस वाला कौन सा प्लेयर है जो उनके लिए खेलता है?
I'm not sure.
वो
We'll need to check that one.
मेंस में इनका प्लेयर है जो बहुत अच्छा
They have
खेलता
quite a
है.
few players in the Bundesliga.
They
Plus, you have
have,
the Leeds midfielder. What's his name? Tanaka.
हाँ,
Tanaka,
Tanaka.
and
He's also
historically they've
decent.
had players in the Bundesliga. We remember, of course,
Yeah,
Shinji
they
Kagawa.
have some sort of exchange program going on there.
Yeah.
Might
They
be
also
from
have
World War II.
Shinji
Shinji,
Kagawa.
Shinji, Shinji Kagawa, who came from the
Yeah, of
Bundesliga to
course.
Manchester
Yes, of
And you've
course.
United.
got Maeda playing for Celtic as well. He's decent as well.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
all
they'll
right.
do more than make up the numbers. I'm expecting a good run from the
I'm
Japanese in the
I I'm
semi.
expect
They've become a team that's consistently now in the second latter stages of,
They're not
or at least they
overawed
don't get
anymore. They
grouped.
don't play.
yeah.
They don't
Correct.
play the team on paper as well. They match up pretty well with everybody these days.
I also I wouldn't be shocked. Like I think anything below a quarterfinal is a failure for them at this point. Like they performed I
The
know
thing
what
is,
you.
there's two matches before the quarters now. There's a round of 32 and a round of 16. It's not as easy to get to the quarters
No,
anymore.
I get that, but at the same time, it's a World Cup of 48 teams. Getting to the round of six, it's not that different in that sense when it gets to the later stages. It's the same. It's those same teams, aside from one or two Cinderella stories, that will get to the round of 60, 32 and 16, right? So I do think they play very good team football. They have a lot of very solid, very good players who play around Europe, and they're also they have this sense of national pride when they play, which not a lot of
I think game management is a problem with them at times because
yeah,
they don't know how to read the game at times. You could perhaps sense that especially the biggest example is them losing in stoppage time to Belgium when
yeah.
they threw everybody in front for the corner and they got hit on the counter. Of
Mm,
course, they've moved on since then. They've achieved a lot more. It's just at times I feel game management over the 90 minutes, over the 120 minutes. I feel that could be a problem. Otherwise, I think they'll do really well in this World Cup.
yeah.
Let's move on to the next team, which is the 2022 host, which was Qatar. Of course, they were the first host nation to lose all three games, went
Horror
0 for
show.
3, and I think they only scored the one goal. They're in an interesting group with the Swiss, with Canada and Bosnia Herzegovina. I don't expect too much from them. Of course, they're managed by Julian Lopetegui, who is a very experienced manager. Um, but nobody really. They might go 0 for 3 again this time
Yeah.
around. It's
Yeah,
not an easy group for
Yeah, that
them.
seems
Don't have
likely.
a
yeah, yeah,
they
Even
don't
though
have
the
a lot of
Swiss
experience.
are not what they used to be, but I still expect them to dish out the punishment in this group. And Bosnia, of course, riding high after knocking out Italy, even though they don't have a lot of talent. Even Dzeko at this advanced age is carrying them.
yeah,
But Bosnia are pretty frisky. They look pretty good against. They're hard to break down. That is one thing about them. And Qatar, I don't think maybe
yeah,
if they get a draw and if they get 1 point in this World Cup, it would be an achievement, to be honest.
yeah. They were it would be remiss not to say since the 2022 World Cup, they were the Asia Cup champions of 2023. So, but at the same time, it's the World. It's going to be hard. I just think we all kind of know this, and we all kind of see a lot of these teams that are in the World Cup this year. They are there to make up the numbers. Sadly, at least there's at
Yeah, when
least
you have 48 teams, you're going to have some teams who are just there to sort of
The
make up
thing
the
is
numbers.
this just like a special edition of the World Cup with 48,
No,
or
I
is
think
this going to
I
be
think
the
this is
this
going
is
to
the
be
way.
moving
This is the way
forward.
we're going now.
This
I
is the
think.
way. Should just go to
Insane.
64, make it real easy. So you mentioned the Swiss. Let's come to the Swiss. Obviously, in Group D,
Mm.
as we mentioned, quarterfinalists in 34 and 38, and then of course in 54. But the last three World Cups, I didn't know this until I looked it up. They actually made the round of 16 the last three World Cups. They're a solid team. Of course, Granit Xhaka is their
They knocked
captain.
out France. They
Yeah.
knocked out
Correct.
France at the Euros.
Highly experienced player, Granit Xhaka, ex of Arsenal, of course, has had another very solid season with Sunderland in the Premier League. Um, and
They've
and
You've got
in
a
that
lot of good
group,
players. Brian Bolo,
correct.
Manuel Akanji,
Kanji,
Dan Ndoye, Ruben
yeah.
Vargas.
They have
Yep.
that young goalkeeper Kohol, that plays for Dortmund, and he's been fantastic.
Jan
He's
Sommer is still playing at a high level, man.
yeah. But I think Cole kept 15 clean sheets in the Bundesliga, which, and if you've seen the
Mm.
defending in the Bundesliga, you know how much of an achievement that is.
But for them in this group, they should easily qualify. Canadians fine, they may get a little bit of a home field advantage, but I don't think the Canadians or Qatar should be an issue for the Swiss. Bosnia could go
Ooh,
either way,
Canadian
but you
guys have
just
done Jonathan David for Juve, of course. He's had a
correct.
mixed
Yes,
season,
he's
but
had a decent
Ismail
season,
Kone,
but
he's really
still.
good, man. He's really
Yeah,
good. I'm really impressed with him.
yeah.
The
I remember.
Swiss shouldn't have any issues with
Yeah,
that team.
yeah.
Yeah, they should be fine.
That should be fine. Then
All right, moving on. Panama, Group
yeah,
L. And we've covered Croatia in that group. They play England, they play Ghana, also play three at the back, like a lot of these smaller teams do. This is their first World Cup. Sorry, second World Cup. They reached
hmm
2018. Adalberto Carrasquilla from Liga MX is their best player. But again, another one of these teams that probably there to make up the numbers. Although I think if I was Croatia, I would be worried about not making those top eight third place teams because I think England and Ghana will be the standout teams in that group.
yeah. I also think the most I can say is like they have a Danish manager called Thomas Christensen, right? And apparently he's basing a lot of his philosophy, the way he plays with Panama, of total football with under Johan Cruyff, and so there's a lot of possession based, slowly manipulating the passing and all that, right? And they play a 3-4-2-1, so they're obviously playing three at the back, which is eventually what I think the meta of football is going towards. Like the meta of football is going towards either a 4-4, almost a 4-4-2 back, or back to a or a or three at the back. That is where I think the meta is shifting in football in the next couple of years. Uh, but as you said, Sadibai, that there are just some teams in the World Cup when you have 48 teams that there's some of them are just coming to make up the numbers.
Yeah, and the last team that we're going to touch on today definitely takes the cake as far as that. Cape Verde or
Yeah,
Cabo Verde, as they now say. It's the smallest team as far as landmass to ever make the World Cup. Second smallest as far as population, only behind Iceland. Um, they're in a group with Spain, Uruguay, and Saudi Arabia. First ever World Cup. This is truly one of the teams that when you get to 48 teams, you end up with nations like I think it's wonderful for the half a million people
yeah,
who live in Cape Verde. I was looking at their qualifying and they actually came through a pretty tough group in the African qualifiers. They beat Angola, beat a couple of other favorite
yeah.
teams. So clearly well organized. They have some talent. Maybe they could surprise, but I think that's a tough group
That's a
because
very yeah,
Spanish are, they're obviously cream of the
favorites,
crop. The
Favorites.
Saudis are
favorites.
highly experienced in coming into
Mm,
World Cup matches. Uruguay as well, highly experienced teams. Hopefully, it's a good experience for them. Let's put it that way.
yeah. That's such a
No,
that's such
they can
a
be frisky in a game of two. They would have done well. Yeah.
that's such a patronizing way of saying it.
I mean,
Oh
I'm
God,
just being honest.
I get it, but like, oh my God, I hope they have
I mean,
fun.
look at how many African giants that didn't make it to the World Cup. I mean,
Yeah,
compared to that.
yeah. I get that, but at the same, like as you like, it's a very tough group. Like it's semi. I wouldn't say it's group of death, right? But it's quite close to it because the Saudis are extremely experienced in that group. right? And then you
And
have
of course, they beat Argentina in 2022. They beat,
exactly.
they've taken down some big names. All right, the
And the
question of the
problem
day
is they
for you
start
is.
with Spain and Uruguay. They don't even get,
They do,
like
correct.
a
Yeah.
They don't get an easy sort of question of the day for you guys. The last
mm,
two times Mexico has hosted, obviously in 1970, the all-conquering Brazil team, sort of a capstone for Pelé. In 1986, Diego Maradona's come-out party. But both 86 and 70, you had the greatest players of their time, sort of
mm.
reaching the pinnacle. In 2026, will third time be the charm again? Will yet again be a capstone for a Cristiano or Messi, or will the current new greatest player of all time take over? Maybe a Mbappe, so on and so forth. Who do
Or
you
a
expect to
or
come
a
out of it?
Yamaha.
Who is the best player in the
Or a
world? That's the
Yamal,
question.
although I
It's
just heard that today Yamal might actually miss definitely the first league group game and maybe the second group game. So do we think Mexico for the third time running gives birth to a superstar?
the superstar, like all the superstars, like Mbappe, in my opinion, is already a legend of the World Cup. Like he had two of.
But he
Uh,
hasn't won it. He hasn't put that capstone
so,
the
no, he
way
hasn't
Maradona did in
single-handedly.
86.
Yes, he hasn't
Yes, and
single-handedly
Pele, and
won
of
one.
course 1970. He hasn't
Yeah,
single-handed. Could this be his year? Cristiano obviously hasn't won a World Cup. He won a
yeah,
Euros, and interestingly, in the final of that Euros, he actually the very last game he got injured midway
yeah. He
through.
got injured midway,
Uh,
and then who scored again? Uh,
I forget who scored, but
I
someone
forget who
scored.
scored. It was an over.
They
It
won
was an
extra time.
Yeah,
Correct.
it was an extra time because they were against
Ah,
a very good France team
Neto,
as
what
well.
was his name?
No, Neto नहीं था. It was some
Single name guy. Beto, I think. What was his name?
what was his name? 1 second. 26.
Beto, BB, something. It was a single name guy, I remember. I remember the goal. I
Yeah, because
visualizing it.
it was outside the box, left footed.
It was a low shot that Lloris should have saved.
Eder.
Header.
Yeah,
There
single
you go.
names. Yeah. Yeah. But like,
The problem is there is no undisputed number one player in the world right now.
yeah,
It's very fluid at the moment. So we don't
Jude.
know who's gonna
Okay,
crown himself.
okay. I'm gonna say this because I personally think this could have.
I heard Jude and I stopped listening.
Yeah. I'm not listening to Jude. Jude, I
It's not
like
going to be
Jude.
Jude.
It's not gonna be Jude. I like Jude. I like Jude as a player, but let's be serious right now. He's not. He's not at that level. Uh, I personally like. We all agree now because of how open the world, how open.
Maybe
Uh,
maybe Neymar will have a sweet swan song. Who knows, man?
hopefully, right? But like no, but like so how open this Ballon d'Or season is, right? Because I don't think
Yep.
Mm.
because like I genuinely do not know who's going to win the Ballon d'Or. Like last year, even though it was open, I kind of knew it was between
If we
Yamal.
are gonna mention someone, then Usman Dembele comes to mind, of
Dembele, yeah,
course.
Dembele, of course. Dembele has to be mentioned because, like, bro, Dembele has been amazing for the last 2 seasons.
Especially
Okay.
if they go back to back on the Champions League.
Yeah.
Which is assured.
You say that, but you never
Yeah,
know.
Come
please,
on.
Hopefully,
please,
yes, we all
please.
hope. We all hope.
I cannot take
We
I cannot
we
take
can't
them
take
winning.
Arsenal fans. Yes.
I
Well,
cannot take
hopefully
them.
Burnley puts them out of their misery today.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see.
I do still think. Okay, I'm gonna say something, and like, not a lot of people will like it, but I just think because genuinely, if you ask me who's the best footballer in the world, because I have seen him play for my team every single week. He's at.
Bruno, here we go.
Oh God.
I don't think he's the best player in the world. Okay, let's be serious. I think he's at least at worst top 5. I think, right? ठीक है? यार देखो ये मुझे पता होने वाला था. I know AZ was about to do this exactly.
I mean, I'm a
Bro, he used to
huge
play for
Manchester United
Udinese. I can't
fan.
respect a player who used to play for Udinese. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm a huge Manchester United fan, but Bruno, fine Premier League Player of the Year, but top 5 world. I just think that
Declan
Portugal
Rice got
team.
robbed, man. Come on.
No,
Rice
How?
he
No,
deserved
didn't.
no,
it.
he did
You know
not.
what? We
Come
will
on.
come
Rice
to
was
this. We will
horrible
come
this.
to this discussion. We will come to
How
this
is he
discussion
horrible?
when we preview England. But
Yeah.
Declan Rice did not get robbed
None
of
of the Arsenal players
Then
got
who
robbed.
got robbed?
Nobody got robbed. Bruno deserved it.
Yeah.
Bruno very clearly deserved it. It was a very obvious thing that he was the
Yes.
best player in the league this
He was the
season.
best player in England this season. No question about
It
it.
was
So,
I am not listening to any of this. But what I'm saying is, I could see because I do think he's Portugal's best player. Okay,
I think if a Portugal wins it, I think it'll be a Vitinha or one of those who basically stamps themselves as, or João Neves as the great, one of the great players of the world. Because this PSG team
or
has been
Nuno Mendes as
all
well,
conquering.
or Nuno
Or
Mendes
Nuno,
as well.
but Nuno Mendes as a defender is
Sorry, not
hard
A
to
Nuno
do.
left
Mendes.
back, how much is
Sorry,
a
not
left back
Mendes.
gonna
What?
do?
Sorry, Neves. Sorry, Neves.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
João Neves or Vitinha.
yeah,
I would go more for those two than Bruno or Cristiano,
yeah.
because that all-conquering PSG team, especially if they go back-to-back in the Champions League,
Yeah.
um, you could see one of those two stamping themselves as the best midfielder in the world today. Which generally, if you do that, that's a good shout for,
Ballon d'Or.
someone else. Yeah, for Ballon d'Or. So,
Yeah.
all right, gentlemen, that was fun.